two-story residential working fire. Smoke side has we have a victim hanging out the second-story window with a heavy smoke condition. This is an imminent rescue. Engine 5 clear the ladder to the second floor to retrieve the victim out of Main Street Command and the offensive strategy. For command. Go over the dial. The victim's disappeared back into the structure. We're changing over going VES. We're in the VES operation. Command for Engine 5. Command for Engine 5. Mayday! 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 This is Engine 5 driver. We have a building collapse and I am unable to contact Engine 5's crew.
Thank you from battalion. I'm still giving this out, so you're gonna get there eventually.
Why don't you guys go ahead and get RIT set up for a staging area set up, if nothing else. I'm gonna go do a 360, meet up with man. I'll meet you out here in front. We're gonna be Richard 2. We're gonna back them up. We're gonna do
Rock, Joe, we're going in with it. I've got the first floor class in the second.
Battalion from truck 1. Good. Report is the VES crew collapsed down to the first floor, and the last known by the driver of Engine 5 would be on the Alpha side front window. Battalion copies, we're missing a crew of 2 inside the structure, is that correct? That is correct. Copy, be advised, I'm still coming back out. JCOM from battalion, strike to second line.
Copy. Additional alarm, additional ambulance.
Battalion from truck 1. Good. We're going to be stretching engine 3/4 attack line through the Alpha front door to do a search and rescue on all the RIT Group Team 1. Battalion copies truck 1, making entries for RIT Group Team 1.
Hey, first crew, guys, it's this man.
purpose of the drill today was to go with a RIT scenario that is plausible, especially those of you that are in an outlying district running away from the center of town. There is a chance, whether it's the first floor, the second floor, whatever, that you've got to do a quick grab. And my guess is, being firefighters the way that you are, if you're 2/3 of the way up the ladder and the person disappears from the ladder, you're not climbing back down and getting a hose line, you're going in after them. That's my guess. That's what you're going to do. That's what I'd do. So in a situation where you're on scene, that's permissible under all of our guidelines. Immediate rescue, you don't need the 2 in, 2 out, all of that stuff. And remember, most maydays, most rapid intervention incidents happen within 5 minutes of the first arriving company on scene. So that's why we set it up this way. A couple things in looking at the drill. Appreciate the effort, the pace that you worked at was wonderful. You got in, you got done what you wanted to do. One of the overreaching things I want to talk about when it comes to RIT operations, and in my mind, and I don't want to give you another checklist, but they're pretty simple. There's 6 things you need to accomplish to do any RIT. Okay, so we'll run through them and we'll see how we did with those. First rule, number 1 in RIT, size up. Okay? Anytime that somebody calls a mayday, anytime that you launch the rapid intervention, you have to do a size up. You have to. That might be quick and dirty if you're on the scene already. You've been watching the building the whole time. The conditions haven't changed. But what was different with this? There was a lag in time on the information gathering about what's happening to the building, right? You got an arrival report from the first due officer, and then nobody was watching the building. So when you jumped off and you went right to 360, that's good work. Okay, right to the quick spin around, figure out, okay, they said there's a collapse. Is something leaning? I hear a pass device. Did we rupture a gas line and now we're feeding gas into the building? Whatever it is, what's the special hazard with that? Could you hear their pass alarms going off on the first floor? Okay, so we knew that they were down onto the first floor, which then precludes the ladder. So always, first thing, size up. Next thing you got to do, you got to control the fire. You have to put efforts to putting the fire out. That doesn't mean we can't simultaneously look for them and control the fire, but if you don't control the fire will control you. So you got right in, you got to knock on the fire, right? Did you radio out to command your benchmark that you hit the fire and you had it under control? Because I couldn't tell. Okay. Remember, the under control benchmark, not knockdown. Knockdown evil, bad, strychnine. The under control benchmark allows the incident commander to no longer think of the fire as a problem and start putting resources towards only the rescue. So the minute that you gain control on the fire, all efforts then go to rescue and search. Right? So make sure the minute that you can declare that, you declare that. So 360, get some water on the fire. Next thing, ventilate the immediate area. What happened right away? You did a wonderful thing. You walked around, you heard the pass was louder over here, so you opened up the window and you took a look, and you closed the window, right? So we could do that. We can narrow it down that way, but then you got right inside and you opened up the window to vent it. What didn't you do? Immediately after putting water on the fire, start thinking about hydraulic ventilation. Clear the smoke out of that area, clear the heat out of that. What? Why are we smirking?
Well, he told us we're in there. I go, he's got a hard on it to do hydraulic ventilation.
Okay? I want it to just become your second nature. Knock the fire, find a window, hydraulically ventilate it. Again, simple rules with windows. If you can see the latch, open it. If you can't see the latch, break it. Okay? But as soon as you can immediately start evacuating that heat and those gases out of that building and lower that IDLH threshold, you make it safer for everybody that's in there. Everybody that you find, everybody that you haven't found. Okay? Size it up, water on the fire, vent the immediate area. Okay? What's the next thing? Locate the victims. You were able to continue down the line with your nozzle, or did you leave it there to protect the fire? You left it there. So you all were doing offline search? How did you know where you were in relationship to the nozzle? Did you take the hose with you? You were on the nozzle, you were in voice contact, right?
I was behind him.
Really small shrunken area. But that's what the search rope is for and the RIT pack is for. Your last known location is the end of the nozzle, right? If you carry a search rope, if you have the RIT bag, loop it around where he's staying to control the fire and take off with it. That way every crew that comes behind you can go to him and then follow the rope. Okay? And I know we're compressed in there. It's really tight and we didn't have to do that, but that's the next thing. Once you find them, you got to be able to... Oh, we're under 30 PSI. You got to be able to find your way back out, and it may be a little further than where the fire is. So just keep that in mind. Don't go offline searching just because you're keyed up to go get somebody. You still got to have an anchor point. Now, residential, when you've got an open window every so far and that sort of thing, you kind of got a gray area there, right? But if this is a bigger building or something like that, you make sure you get that down. So size it up, water on the fire, vent the immediate area, find the victims, air transfer if necessary, right? Did we need to air transfer these guys? Had they had packs on? Did you know going into there that you were going to need to do an air transfer? Did you think about that? You thought about having the stuff to do an air transfer. How far into the event were we? 3, 4, 5 minutes? Were they out of air? Were they going to be out of air? Probably not. Okay? Do you automatically have to do an air transfer? Let's say that we have this exact same structure. You find the window again, Ricky, and I'm laying inside there, and I'm really low on air. Are you going to air transfer me, or are you going to drag me out or chuck me out the window as long as you have some power lifters with you? Probably throw you out the window. Air transfer after that in parentheses says if necessary. Right? If it's going to slow down the first crew to take the RIT bag, don't take the RIT bag. Have the next crew come in once you find them with the equipment that you need to do the air transfer. Especially when I started out with, so you can just go click, and then when the bag shows up, you unclick out of them because you rapid filled, give them half. You take half of this new one, give them the other half, you both have the same amount of air again. Okay? So there are things, and you're going to practice that this afternoon, making sure that we get to connections and doing all of that stuff. So if you can get away from automatically thinking, I have to do an air transfer. No, you have to determine if you need to do an air transfer, and then you need to make sure that the stuff's coming to be able to do it. Right? So size it up, water on the fire, vent the immediate area, locate the victim, air transfer, and get them out. Next thing's get them out. 1 came out the door, 2 came out the window. Perfect. Was it easier for the door? Was it easier for the window? It all depends on where you are, right? And what you've got going on and those sorts of things. That's all interior crews. Nobody from the outside is going to tell you how to get them out. You had to get in there. Is it easier getting in the way you got in or easier getting them out of a window? What do you have to do? And if you just think about those 6 things, okay, in that order, that's all RIT. Almost every rapid intervention that we will do, if you accomplish those 6 things in relatively that order, it'll go well. Because it's just the necessary things that we have to do. I've stressed to you guys a lot, when things get complex and things start happening very quickly, or fall back to the basic things. Water on the fire, vent the building, make sure you got air. Those simple things make everything else go a lot easier. When we run into a rapid intervention drill and we don't take care of those, that's where we turn the 2 victims into 8 victims. When we're not paying attention to those basic firefighting things. Like we laid out the hose, okay, and it was kind of kafugly right here. It was all kinky and all of that stuff. Did we blow it out before we went in? No. Did we open up the door too soon before the hose was ready to open up the door? Yeah. Because we focused in on the RIT aspect of it and forgot that there was still a fire going on at the same time. We have to keep in mind the simple things. Okay? Size it up. Get water on the fire. Okay, vent the immediate area, locate the victim, air transfer, get them out. That's it. And as you're rabbiting to find them, and they actually have a collapse, and if it's something that's really heavy and you need extra wire cutters or extra whatever, these guys that were on the backup, they got geared up and ready to go, and they can reach over and grab whatever they need out of a bag and bring it right to you. And so can the next company and the next company. Now, one of the things that's kind of clunky in our rep intervention stuff, and Captain Humpston's doing yeoman's work to try to pare that down and make it a working, living, breathing document that we can use, is how many of you are going to remain outside the building until told to go in when this happens? Very few of you, right? Okay, I'm there, I'm in. You're not getting me out. I've had that argument from the very day. When I hear the bell, I'll come out. Okay? I got that, and I understand that. So one of the things that we're working really hard on is maybe at this point, you're inside running the show, and Rick needs to hang here by the door and get some door control.
I almost wondered that while I'm coming up here because Zach said it's going to be delayed. So I thought, well, should I or Tim, should we stay out here with command and let the other two join up and recruit?
Not so much command, but the RIT supervisor. That when we chart this thing out and we have a fire, we're going to have the fire suppression side being run by the command, and then we're going to put in a RIT supervisor that answers to command that's standing right here running the door.
But at the time, it wasn't command, Zach said he couldn't be here, so Ray took that over.
Right.
So that's why I was like, I looked at Tim and said, when you have to do this 360, you want to follow in and say, yeah, follow me in. So I guess we could still do the fire attack, but I was just thinking for some reason, having somebody out here until Zach showed up and he says on the scene. And that's happened multiple times where the BC is not there. Not to say we can't do our work and continue command like he did, but just having that outside operation.
But BC took it from you before you actually.
Well, I'm just saying, from today, but it's happened before where the BC's in Coralville or whatever, and then one of those things where, hey, I remember Scott Roseby one time commanded the truck company. He stayed outside doing the command stuff while the rest of the crew went and did what they're doing. Whether it's wrong or right, I don't know. I thought about that as soon as we showed up and he said, yeah, I'm going to be delayed. We can still do our interior stuff. I think Tim and I and our lieutenants can still be commanded. But are you really command interior?
I think if the battalion is significantly delayed, somebody needs to stay out.
I think we've got some rules in place that say we don't want to just willy-nilly pass command between equal ranks in the organization, and we don't want to pass command to somebody who's not on scene.
Right.
And then there's a line at the bottom of the page that says, under unusual conditions, the good judgment of the company officer rules. So he's got his hands full, right? He's got his hands really full. Perfect. Okay? I'm just saying, let's not make it a practice. Okay? Let's not get that into our head that that's something that we should do with regularity. But in the event of an unusual circumstance, this would qualify. Okay? And again, your primary job is when he arrives and you've done that and you're an outside commander, he's going to immediately push RIT supervisor to you. Correct? He's going to immediately do that, and then your body's going to stand in the doorway. And the next company that shows up, you're going to be, put your gear on, get your mask on, get everything ready to go, so all you got to do is click in, I'll tell you when you can go. Right? And that's what it's going to take to run this thing. There's just no way, with all of us wanting to get in to help, that we can all work in that little tiny space. And again, if we don't push the supervision of the RIT operation down to the main entry portal, we're begging for freelancing. And I don't care what fire department you are. I don't care if you're the Georgia Bowie Hickeys in the middle of nowhere fire department or the biggest fire department in our country. You're going to have problems with door control if something like this happens. You're going to have people wanting to get in. And I can guarantee you, I had Larry kind of be in the pest as the equipment operator. That guy's going to be losing it. You're all going to be, get in there and get my guys. What are you doing? Speed it up. And you're going to be pressured to get in before you're ready to get in, right? And that's where strong company officers need to take in and make sure my gear's on, your gear's on, the hose is ready, the door control is there, we're going to get our ventilation, we're going to fall back, we're going to put out the fire, okay, and then we're going to go see what we can do. And that's where you need the strong company, okay, to stay with that. There's no other way to accomplish it.
And I think Larry here, I get information from him.
Right.
That guy saw everything happen to Brian Wright and saying, like, hey, you know, I said something. I asked you about where the collapse was. He's going over the corner. That's where we're trying to put the door.
So my plan was to leave the smoke machine churning, making it dark, until you opened a window for ventilation. And then I was going to shut it off because the smoke condition gets better when you open the windows, and it gets worse if you don't. So it's the minute that you did that, I opened it up and the smoke condition improved a little bit. I don't know how smoky it was in there, but we're pumping a lot into it. So had a fire component. Again, not a lot, but just enough to make you do something about it. Yeah. That ends the drill. Okay? Now.
Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, Bob. There could still be people and stuff at the top of that stairs.
Yes.
I'm headed to the second floor to check quick. The collapse could be one end of the building.
And you're absolutely right. And the reason I stopped you, okay, at that is I wanted to say this before I let you go. Okay? We already know the building's collapsed. So if we vent it, and if we look at it, and if we find our hole, and if we spend 30 seconds underneath it with a pike pole going solid, 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 and then make the stairs, you can say, Lynn, we're going to the second story. We're not going to the Alpha Delta corner because that's where the collapse is. Sizing up before you charge up the stairs. That's all I wanted you to think about. I didn't want to ingrain, get right up the stairs in these things. Because I'm getting ingrained into you, we all are ingrained into you. Water on the fire, poof, go search. Right? But you know the building's got some structural issues. Before you put people up there, just take a little time and look around underneath it and make sure that it's cool. We can search this Alpha Delta corner from a ladder. Right? It's not that we're not going to search it. But I want to make sure that you're only going to go to the areas that are safe for you to be in, so you're not the next one down.
The building has already taken 2 of your guys. You have to redo your risk benefit.
And don't be surprised if the final product of the RIT says, after we have a Mayday and we accomplish the firefighter removal, that we get a par and reset to where we're going. Doesn't mean you have to leave the building, right? Well, we want to get a par, we want to see what the building's doing, because nobody's watching the fire conditions anywhere else but right there. Command is watching the building, right? But everybody else on the fire ground is completely focused on getting these people out and then the medical care that they need and then getting them to the ambulance. And so nobody's really paying attention to the global thing that's going on. And that's a perfect time for us to say, okay, where are we right now with our size up? How do we attack this structure from where we've got, and what priorities do we have left to accomplish? Well, we got a second floor search we need to do. We need to make sure the fire's not going anywhere. Okay, you do that, you do this, you do that. Okay, so don't be surprised if there's going to be a pause in the operation at that point.
Because psychologically, what you've been through, we might be sending completely short instead of the guy who's
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing. Once we know we've got 2 rounds and 1 person to solve.
Yeah, anytime that there's a rapid intervention event, anytime that there is, when you believe that you have the RIT done, there's going to be a call for a PAR. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you need to evacuate the building. You just got to get a PAR. And a PAR is more than I just got my guys, right? The PAR, especially if you're inside, is what are their physical conditions like? What are emotional conditions like? What is their air supply like? What is their fatigue level? Because you can have all 3 of your guys, but if you're busting ass to get somebody out of the building, you may be done for a little bit. So that you're not doing me any good if I got a fresh company out here I can send in. You see what I'm saying? So when we finish a ROP intervention evolution after a Mayday call, that's the time that the command's got to come back and start the whole thing over again. Size it up, figure out what's left to do for tactical priorities, go solve the problem. Make sense? So that's why we stopped it. I know you're getting to the second floor. I know you're thinking the hole's over here, I'm pretty fine. I want everybody to think that way because that thought process was quiet in your head and you thought that all the way through, but I want to make sure that everybody else knows that that's what you were thinking, so when these guys are in charge, they're thinking the same thing. That's on the upper end of good. Yeah. That's above average. The flake time, the time to enter is all running 3.5 minutes ish, if people are putting good effort into it. Okay. So again, I can't stress enough, when things get chaotic, when things start going a little off the script, fall back to the basics. Put the fire out, vent the structure. Find who's ever in there, air transfer if necessary, get them out. Handle it one piece at a time. Okay? The radio traffic was good. It got a little blocky when you got in because you were working, okay? And we seem to take good effort in our radio traffic a lot of times, and then once we start getting busy, the radio traffic kind of comes a second afterthought in our head. And I'd like to leave you with this thought. If it's important enough for you to stop working to talk on the radio, it's important enough to make sure you're doing it the right way. So make sure you get that microphone up, make sure you cover it with the pass device. Did somebody turn that off?
I tried and then I threw out the window.
I just had the one.
I found one threw out the window.
Somebody did. I tried turning it on and somebody crossed out.
Okay, so any questions on anything? Anybody got anything? Okay, so take the air stuff seriously tonight. In the back of my truck are the face masks. Take a couple of them for your company, the darkening shields. If you forget it, just take some aluminum foil or some freezer paper or something and put in the mask. But make sure you get good at the air transfers, the air transfills.